Perched above the River Aude in southern France, Carcassonne looks like something straight out of a fairy tale. A crown of stone walls and watchtowers shimmering in the sun. But behind its postcard perfection lies more than 2 millennia of history. Celts, Romans, Visigoths, Crusaders, kings, and a few very determined locals who refuse to let it crumble. The story begins around the 6th century BCE, when a Celtic tribe called the Volcae Tectosages settled on the hill. They picked the spot wisely. It had a commanding view of the surrounding valley and was easy to defend. When the Romans arrived a few centuries later, they promptly improved things. They built walls, straightened the streets, and called the place Carcassonne. The Romans were fond of order and baths, both of which they left behind. The former survives in the city's layout, the latter, sadly, not. When the Western Roman Empire collapsed, Carcassonne became a revolving door of rulers. The Visigoths took over in the 5th century, building stronger fortifications and a cathedral. The Franks tried to take it. Then the Moors succeeded for a few decades in the 8th century before being driven out again. The city changed hands so often that one historian joked, Carcassonne must have needed a revolving sign outside saying, "Under new management." From this chaotic time comes one of France's most enduring legends, that of Dame Carcas. According to the tale, Emperor Charlemagne besieged the city for 5 years. When the defenders ran out of food, the clever widow of the city's ruler, Dame Carcas, fed their last sack of grain to their last pig and threw the poor creature over the wall. Charlemagne, seeing a well-fed pig flying from the battlements, assumed the city still had ample supplies and lifted the siege. Dame Carcas then rang the bells in triumph, and the people cried, Carcassonne! Carcass rings. That, according to local lore, is how the city got its name. It's complete fiction, of course, but locals love it, and it makes a much better souvenir story than formerly Roman trading post. In reality, by the 11th century, Carcassonne was flourishing under the Trencavel family, the Viscounts of Languedoc. They encouraged trade, built the Grand Basilica of Saint-Nazaire, and turned the city into a cultural center where troubadours sang in Occitan and heretics debated theology over wine. One of those heretical movements, the Cathars, would soon bring disaster. The Cathars rejected the Catholic Church's wealth and corruption, preaching a faith of simplicity and equality. To the Church, that was about as welcome as a fox in a henhouse. Pope Innocent III launched the Albigensian Crusade in 1209 to wipe them out, and Carcassonne, a known Cathar stronghold, became one of the first targets. That summer, the French Crusaders surrounded the city. The young Viscount Raymond Roger Trencavel held out bravely but soon ran out of water. When he surrendered to negotiate peace, he was thrown into his own dungeon and mysteriously died there. The citizens were expelled, their homes looted, and Carcassonne was handed to the French crown. The Cathar movement was crushed in fire and steel, and the once independent Languedoc was brought firmly under royal control. After the Crusades, the French kings decided to make sure no one ever challenged them again. They transformed Carcassonne into an impregnable fortress, encircling the old Visigothic walls with a second ring of stone and adding 52 towers. It became the southern bulwark of France, guarding the border with the Kingdom of Aragon. During the 100 Years' War in 1355, the English Black Prince burned the lower town to the ground but couldn't crack the citadel. The defenders, it said, watched the flames below and toasted their luck from the ramparts. But all fortresses eventually outlive their usefulness. In 1659, the Treaty of the Pyrenees shifted France's border far to the south, leaving Carcassonne's mighty walls strategically pointless. The army left, weeds grew, and locals began hauling away stones to build barns and houses in the new lower town. By the 1800s, the once proud fortress was a picturesque ruin, loved by artists, ignored by everyone else. Then came Prosper Mérimée, France's inspector of historical monuments and part-time novelist. In 1849, he visited the city and was horrified to learn it was slated for demolition. He convinced the government to save it and brought in the legendary restorer Eugène Viollet-le-Duc, the man who also gave Notre Dame its famous spire. Viollet-le-Duc began a massive restoration project, rebuilding towers, repairing walls, and, in true 19th century style, adding a few creative improvements. One of his more controversial choices was to top the towers with steep slate roofs, typical of northern France. Locals protested that their medieval fortress now looked like it had been teleported from Normandy. Viollet-le-Duc shrugged. He was less concerned with historical precision than with capturing the spirit of the Middle Ages, or at least the romantic version of it. Today, historians still debate whether his Carcassonne is authentic or fantasy. Either way, he saved it from ruin. By the late 19th century, Carcassonne was reborn. Painters came to sketch its towers. Poets compared it to a stone crown. In 1997, UNESCO named it a World Heritage Site, praising it as a masterpiece of restoration. Now, the city welcomes millions of visitors each year, its narrow streets filled with the aroma of cassoulet, a rich bean stew said to have fortified the defenders during medieval sieges, though in truth, it probably just fortifies tourists between photo stops. Today, Carcassonne is both fortress and fable. It has stood through empire and crusade, ruin and revival, and even the occasional architectural scandal. It remains one of France's greatest symbols of endurance, a city that has learned, quite literally, how to rebuild itself. And perhaps that's why its legend of Dame Carcas endures too, because in every age, Carcassonne finds a way to ring its bells again. High above the Orbiel Valley in southern France, the village of Lastours is watched over by four dramatic ruins: Cabaret, Tour Régine, Sur d'Espagne, and Courtenay, known together as Les Quatre Châteaux de Lastours. In the Middle Ages, these fortresses formed a single powerful stronghold, guarding the Montagne Noire. The lords of Cabaret, proud and independent, became known for their sympathy toward the Cathars, the heretical sect that challenged the authority of the Catholic Church. When the Albigensian Crusade thundered through Languedoc in the early 13th century, Lastours became a rebel outpost. The castles held out stubbornly, their defenders sending messages between towers by catapult, an early and rather inefficient version of medieval texting. But after a long siege in 1211, Simon de Montfort's crusaders finally forced the surrender. The Cathar parfaits who sought refuge there were captured or burned. Ironically, one of the castles, Tour Régine, was later built by royal order to symbolize the king's new power. Its name means Queen's Tower. Today, the ruins still cling to the cliffs, battered but magnificent. Below, the quiet village of Lastours seems to nap under their gaze, as if even after 8 centuries, the stones themselves remember the thrill and tragedy of rebellion. If you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to give the video a like. It really helps the channel grow. I'd also love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Maybe share a historical fact or a place you'd like to see from above next time. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to Horizon History so you don't miss the next story told from the skies.